The Australian outback. Not a place for the faint-hearted, and not a place you ever want to break down. When Jillaroo Jess heads to her next job, it could be thousands of kilometres away, and her ute has to be up to the task. So when Alan and Andrew Gray cross paths with her during a trip to the Pilbara, they insist on making sure it's terrain Tamer strong. Hours in the humidity, lots of parts installed, and Alan exhausted from telling everyone what to do.
You finished yet?
Will Jess's ute be out back ready?
Well, we've been kicked out of the workshop. The guys want to use it today, but they've put us up here in a better place, I reckon. It's around a 60-degree view.
Yeah, it's
nice
beautiful
breeze
view out here, isn't it?
And let's see you do some work.
Alrighty, so what we're going to do is we're going to fit a Flashlube diesel filter. It's probably the single most important thing I reckon you can do to your four-wheel drive.
Absolutely.
There's a few simple things you can do to protect yourself from fuel contamination, and the first one is to add an additional fuel filter.
Especially with all the travelling that I do, I go to so many different fuel stations, you never know if there's something in there.
Yeah, that's it. You never know what you're going to get. 30 micron filter. It prevents your factory filter from getting blocked up prematurely, and it's got a big water trap on it as well.
I have heard a lot about secondary fuel filters to protect your engine from dirt and everything, but I guess it was one of those things I thought, oh yeah, I'll get to that later.
It is the most important thing you could fit on a late model diesel. Absolutely number one. I wouldn't drive it across the road without an extra fuel filter. Glad to see that Jess is going to fit it on hers, because she is going to get fuel from questionable sources. Okay, hotshot.
Maybe it's getting fitted by questionable sources too.
If he works on it, it will be. There's no doubt about that.
Let's have a look.
First up, we will need to find a place to fit the mounting bracket for the new filter. Yeah, so they built it pretty heavy duty because it's got to be strong enough to go the distance.
Yeah, lucky there's plenty of room there in Land Cruisers.
Yeah, it is pretty lucky. You've got to be pretty creative with some of the other vehicles on the market.
In this fuel filter, we supply a little bottle of diesel fuel conditioner. We actually bottle a lot of this a month and send it all over the world, and we've been doing that for 10 years. On some of these vehicles, we're talking about 30,000 pounds of square inch in the pump, and virtually very little lubrication in the diesel. And that's a problem. So we've got a diesel fuel conditioner, which its main job is a sulphur replacement to lubricate the pump.
At those sort of pressures, at that sort of 32,000 psi, a tiny bit of dust becomes a missile in there. It actually becomes abrasive enough to remove material in your injector.
Wow. It's really interesting. I was guilty when I first got it. I was like, oh, it's a V8, it sounds good, it's fun, but yeah, it's interesting learning all the finer details.
Now with the bracket fitted, it's time to attach the filter.
That glass.
That's Perspex. If you have glass, some of the glass ones break in for the frost, not up here, or the stones. So that's Perspex, and you'll be able to see dirt or moisture in it. And there's a drain at the bottom, but we'll actually be fitting a water indicator, so it'll be a light on the dashboard. And we'd like you to have a look at that and perhaps drain that if necessary.
Yeah, righto.
We'll also fit up a hand primer later on, just to make it a bit easier for you to get the fuel up when you change the filters.
How often would I change that in comparison to the other filter?
It all depends on what the quality of the fuel is. Like Alan was saying earlier, if you've got, you just keep checking your bowl down here, and if it looks dirty, then I'd definitely be changing it. I'd certainly be changing it if the water and fuel indicator comes on.
All right, well, you come over here and supervise, as per usual.
Yeah, give someone else a go.
Let me do the hard work.
Grab hold of that, please, and we'll just sort of lay it out against the back of the firewall. So what I'm doing here is I'm just cutting the hose exactly in half. We'll fit it off from this end first, because that's the original fuel plumbing is over here. Cable will tie it all in, get it all sitting where it's got to go, and then we'll connect it up over the other end. Can I get you to just pull those fittings out? They're only in there hand tight, and just put a bit of that goo on it, and you don't need a lot. That goo is actually a sealant, and will ensure the brass fitting is connected into the filter head properly. We recommend using a liquid sealant for most effective results.
The hose clamps we supply for all our things, whether it's the hoses or radiator hoses, they're just turned up on the edge just a little bit to stop that sharp edge tending to cut into the hose. So they're just barreled out just a little bit.
Here, I reckon we'll shove it under those heater hoses in the back there, and we'll just bring it around, we'll tie it off against the wiring loom, and we'll make it look nice. It can be a bit fiddly, positioning the hoses neatly around the firewall, but there are hose clamps supplied in the kit to keep them in position. Yes. I reckon we can dock it off about there somewhere. What we have here is a hand primer. It's not a necessity. The factory filter has one, but this does make life a bit easier. By using the hand primer, you can pump fuel through the whole system until you can see fuel in the clear bowl of the new filter. The hand primer will start to go hard at this stage. It may take a while to get there. You'll have to do this every time you replace the fuel filters.
How do you know when you've primed it enough you could die of thirst priming it by tomorrow night?
It'll start going hard.
Let me know if you want me to take over.
This is the most work he's done all day. Don't stop him, please.
I think the thing that'll help with the longevity with my engine would be the catch can.
Well, we're back under the shed. It's allegedly a bit cooler here. Well, with engine manufacturers these days that have to comply with some pretty stringent regulations regarding the environmental side of things, they try and intercept fumes which come from the crankcase. That normally goes down to the turbo through the cooler system into the intake and gets into the engine. So we're going to intercept those oil fumes, which sounds like a good idea, and we're actually going to put them in through a catch can, what we call a catch can, and catch the fumes and the soot and the sludge and the condensation and drain it away. Did you follow that brief, rapid discussion?
I think so.
Do you want to start it up and we'll just have a bit of a feel of that pressure and you'll hear it?
Sure.
Jess starts up the engine so that Al can demonstrate his point.
Just put your finger over there for a minute. See, I'll do it for a second. Yeah, okay, so that's evidence that we're certainly breathing. So it's not good for that to go into the engine. So we're going to trap it.
I didn't know the difference between common rail diesel and other engines, and Alan really explained to me what harm the carbon could do to the motor.
So this is the unit itself. I'll just show you that first. If I can get these little boxes open. Ah, that's the thing. That is probably, and I'm probably biased, but this is the best one in the world for a couple of reasons, for 4 reasons. First of all, it's got, so we've got big inlets and outlets. We've got a vacuum release valve, pressure relief valve, and a dedicated agglomerator, which actually the fumes are put together from invisible fumes, droplets, into gravity affected drops, drop out into our drain tube. So we've just recently won an award for this, for an innovative award for it in Australia for the best product available in the AAA show, which is pretty prestigious thing.
The way the new catch can bracket has been designed means that no new holes have to be drilled into the car. It's designed to fit into the existing holes, which makes the whole process seamless. The next step is to fit the drainage tube.
Well, so Andrew's going to put the drain tube on. This is the metre hose I spoke about earlier with a tap on the end. We're going to poke it down there where you can get at it so as you can show your mates how effective it is. But you can drain it. We reckon 2,000 kilometres.
Yeah, I had just opened that up a minute ago and saw the filter in it. How often do you have to change it?
I would say as long as you're draining it regularly, it could be 60,000 kilometres.
Okay.
Right, so once we get these 2 hoses on and then the drain hose, and then we're finished, we're done and dusted.
Since Al taught me a lot about common rail engines, I'm really glad that I've got it in now.
Jess, have you heard about ECUs?
I have. So what's the benefit of putting this in my engine, especially with my long trips?
The biggest benefit you're going to see out of its drivability. Gives you a really good spread of torque all the way through the rev range.
Everyone always just talks about your ute being chipped. So I was just thinking a computer chip. Sounds really stupid, but it's true.
So we're going to discard that and cut a bigger hole in here.
When Al was cutting a hole in my ute for the snorkel, I was a little bit worried, especially when he starts saying, uh-oh.
I hope it wasn't meant to be over here.